evening and welcome to another episode of Thought That Get Results. I am Webbo Herbert, and as per usual we are here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to our Let's Talk program in K.O. Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195 Charlestown in Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. By the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed, 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down. So you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything that we deem is not within our broadcast standards. But we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. Tonight, as advertised, we have two segments to the program. The first segment is under the auspices and the authority of the local preachers of the Methodist circuit here in Nevis. Hansel Manners is one of those local preachers who helped to organize this program this evening. Hansel Manners, Brother Hansel Manners, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert, and I must say I'm glad to be here, and on behalf of the local preachers community on Nevis, I wish to say thank you for having us this evening.
Harvey Hendrickson is also a local preacher. Harvey, good evening. It's good to have you.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert, and good evening to all listeners.
Sorry, Brother Harvey, good evening.
Thank you very much. Good evening to you, sir, and to our radio listeners.
Okay, so why don't we allow Mr. Manners or Mr. Hendrickson, Brother Hendrickson, to introduce our special guest this evening. You.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Good evening again to our radio audience. I am pleased this evening to let you know that we have with us a special guest. I wish to welcome one and all to this evening's social outreach event organized and presented by the local preachers of the Methodist Church Nevis Circuit as part of our celebration of Local Preachers Week. And I thank you, Mr. Herbert, for responding favorably to our request for some free radio time this evening on your Let's Talk program. I offer a special word of welcome to our guest this evening, Mrs. Karimu Byron Keynes, Director of the National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention. She will present and lead the discussion on the topic, Preventing and Responding to Drug Abuse, a Shared Responsibility. This all started when I attended a morning seminar on this topic earlier this year at the Disaster Management Department, organized by Reverend Ron Daniel of the Wesleyan Holiness Church. And during this seminar, our guest made a presentation on this topic. I have known Mrs. Byron Keynes. She was a young school child in St. Kitts, and I know her parents well. In fact, to tell tales out of school, I used to play chess with her dad, and many times when she came home from school, she would meet us on her gallery, deeply involved in a game. So I'm pleased to see that she is now grown and is taking her place in the world. That gave me comfort. My relationship and knowledge of her made it comfortable for me to approach her at that seminar at the Disaster Management Department to ask whether she would agreed to repeat her presentation or to speak on this topic at during Local Preachers Week. And this is the week we're celebrating now. I had heard some interesting things that she said during that presentation, and I thought it would be an excellent medium for social outreach, one of our objectives during our annual celebration. She immediately agreed, and so said, so done. She is here with us this evening, and I'm pleased to welcome her to our event. Welcome, Karimo.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manners, for the introduction, and a pleasant good evening to all of you here and those in Radio World. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Okay, and before you get into your presentation, just before that, walk with me, Mr. Manners. Can I officially welcome you to the studios of One Radio, and to, in particular, Let's Talk program, where we only do, well, mostly do talk and get results. Tonight will be no exception. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Herbert.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mr. Manager said Mr. Hendrickson is next. Mr. Hendrickson, our brother Hendrickson.
Thank you again, sir. We are celebrating a week of activities as local preachers in the Nevis circuit. And so starting on Monday, which was yesterday, we had a midday luncheon at Penny's, at Randy's, at Lime Beach Bar. Today, Tuesday, the 21st, we visited the Flamboyant Home at St. George's and St. John's, and also the Flamboyant Home at Charlestown, I beg your pardon, and the St. George's and St. John's Senior Citizens Home. It was really a delight. This evening, we are here on the Let's Talk program, and we are will be discussing preventing and responding to drug abuse, a shared responsibility. On Thursday, we will again make another visit. We will visit the prison farm at Madden's. On Saturday, the 25th, there will be a discussion on the 2020 Vision Radio, the good old days, on the topic, from then to now, have we drifted from our values? From then to now, have we drifted from our values? On Sunday, which is the final day on the 26th, the local preachers will be in the pulpit throughout the circuit and will bring the message for the local preachers' Lord's Day. In the afternoon, it culminates the whole week of activities. We will have in Gingerland, at the Gingerland Methodist Church, at 4:30, a mini Bible reading marathon. And so we are inviting the general public to come on out and have that experience. And so we're expecting that the rest of the week, rest of the activities would go equally well as it went today. Thank you.
Okay. Why don't we go and get the presentation at this point, because we already crunched for time. So let's do that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Herbert. And again, I just want to say thank you to you for allowing us to come on the Let's Talk program here tonight, to the whole One Radio team, to the Methodist Church leadership and the local preachers from the Methodist Circuit for inviting me to be part of this very important discussion. As mentioned earlier, my name is Mrs. Karimo Byron Keynes. I am the director of the National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention Secretariat. Now, for the listeners who may not be familiar with who we are, the National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention is the national coordinating body that leads and supports efforts as it relates to prevention, education, intervention, policy development, regional and international collaboration around substance misuse, and related public health concerns. So our role includes national prevention and public awareness campaigns, school and community education, training and capacity building, early intervention, support pathways, stakeholder collaboration, national policy coordination, including the implementation and other international relations. So the Council, we work closely with ministries across the board: Ministry of Education, Health, Police, Customs, law enforcement, faith-based organizations, and community partners to strengthen our response to substance misuse and abuse. So this discussion, it builds, as Mr. Manners said earlier, on a presentation that I was privileged to deliver for the Evangelical Association on Drugs and the Church. And I'm grateful that the conversation is now being extended to the wider audience. So I'm really happy to be here. And many may ask, why is this conversation important now? So this discussion is especially important at this time because substance misuse continues to affect individuals, families, workplaces, schools, and communities across our federation. It is not an issue limited to one age group or one social background, one community. We are seeing concerns that span generations, for instance, of early experimentation among young people to harmful alcohol use and other forms of substance misuse among drugs. We've carried out a number of surveys before that indicate there are a number of varying reasons why people may choose to use substances. And we also confirm that alcohol remains one of the most commonly used substances among students, followed by tobacco and cannabis. That was back in 2013. So I mean, it's a reason for concern, okay? This is important as well because it reminds us that while much of the public discussion focuses on illegal drugs, alcohol remains one of the most widely used and harmful substances when misuse begins early. And then more recently, we would have had some changes in our legislation as it relates to cannabis as well. And there tends to be a bit of clarity that is needed in different areas. And so there are some concerns around that as well. At the Council, we also continue to monitor regional, Caribbean, and international public health trends where local data may be limited. It's definitely an area that we have some work to do on to ensure that our responses remains evidence-informed and relevant. In many cases, substance misuse is not just about substance itself. It is often connected to deeper issues, and this is something Mr. Harvey and I Hendrickson, were talking about on our way here. There's always a root cause for something. And so when we see people using substances, there's always a story behind the use and misuse. And some, and only some, that I'll mention here includes things like stress, trauma, mental health challenges, family conflict, peer pressure, social pressure, and lack of healthy coping strategies. So this is why the conversation must happen now and must happen openly. Too often, many people feel it's just somebody else's issue, not my issue. Or this is something that the government should handle. I don't have a handle on that, just one institution. But that is something that we need to break. We have to realize that this is a shared responsibility if we really want to make a difference and see people utilizing healthy coping mechanisms, making sure people feel safe in spaces to heal and to grow. This is a conversation that we must have and share across the board. So yes, the truth is that substance misuse affects our collective well-being, social development, and national productivity. And that is why prevention and response must be a shared responsibility. And so I look forward to the questions and discussions that we will have along with the local pastors that are here this evening.
Thank you. Could I ask a question, or could you clarify? The National Council is a federal council, so it applies to both St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes, it's the St. Kitts and Nevis National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention, and so we fall under the Ministry of National Security. People always wonder, but why such an area? Because we not only focus on substance misuse and abuse, or at least to address the concern, we also have to look at supply reduction, control measures as it relates to the access and trafficking of substances. So those are some areas that we get involved in heavily as well. Coordination and keeping up with best international practices and standards and monitoring, training and things along that line. So yes, we fall on the Ministry of National Security, and it's for both St. Kitts and Nevis.
You did mention the three biggest threats, and I missed the second one. The first was alcohol.
Alcohol, tobacco, and cannabis.
Okay, right.
And these findings were from a 2013 survey. Alcohol was the number one at that time. We are yet to do another survey to see what the statistics are looking like currently. We're not sure if the new regulation may have adjusted, the ranking of the different ones, but based on the surveys, that was the order back in 2013.
Notwithstanding, you have not done the scientific study from since 2013. Do you have an unscientific trend as a consequence of that same changes in the legislation where cannabis is concerned? In other words, you may not have the scientific statistics,
right,
but do you have any unscientific indication?
Right, so just based on observation, and I think many of you will agree with me, it is more evident that more persons are openly using cannabis at this time. There's the public smoking concerns. It seems as if it is a free-up substance, which is not exactly what the law states, but I think we're going to get into that a little later. But we are questioning, without the scientific surveys, whether if cannabis may have probably gone a little closer to alcohol than previously.
Right, because unscientifically as well, I'm questioning whether or not, and you did indicate in your opening statement that there might be some confusion in the changes in the legislation as a consequence.
There needs to be some more clarity. Yes, clarity is needed.
Because when this was debated, I, in private discussions, indicated we're going to have problems with that. Because I think the communication was not very effective. We did not do effective communication. And in my view, my own personal view, the hype was too much around how much money we can make from this thing. You may not know the answer, but I'll just throw out the question publicly. I wonder how much money we have made since. Hendrickson, you wanted to come in?
I am on the same page with you in relation to that, because seemingly the focus was on making money. But the question is, how destructive is that to our society at the end of the day? You make, and let's assume that you make millions. The question is, how much harm is being done to our society in terms of our people, the young people, the very young, mothers, school children, and older people who for some reason or the other seem to think that, okay, well, it's a trend, so I can go along with it. I have some difficulty in understanding why is it that, in a manner of speaking, that was not taken into consideration, because at the end of the day, the society is going to suffer. They were going to have rehabilitating homes for these people, training, And some of these monies can be better spent within the society and in the community for the betterment and the development of our people overall, instead of spending the money in that area. So I have a concern with that.
And I fully understand where Hendrickson and but he introduced me to himself as Webbo. So Webbo is stuck in my head. I hope it's okay that I call you Webbo.
That's okay. It's stuck in a lot
Mr.
of
Herbert,
person's head.
Mr. Herbert.
No,
I'm
Webbo is
very respectful here.
His full name, and I had to ask his staff, and I couldn't remember. His full name is Mr. Everett Herbert.
Okay, okay.
His name is very unusual.
It's only since we started this program I realized it's Mr. Herbert, but he was like, my name is Mr. Webbo, so that's stuck in my head, so pardon me.
But Karima, can I say Karima?
Yes, that's fine.
Karimu.
Karimu. That happens as well.
Okay.
Somebody always speaks on my behalf. I'm not allowed to I'm not allowed to do that. Go ahead.
But the concern that was raised about previously not having sufficient education and clarity around the changes in legislation, it may be legit, but we don't know the factors that may have caused that. And I like to look at where are we now and how can we make that better moving forward. And so it is discussions like these that are necessary to educate and inform the general public. This is exactly what the law says. And of course, people are going to be at different levels. Some may have access to the internet where they can read on the Clarity, the Cannabis Clarity website, what the information is saying, or the Medicinal Cannabis Authority website, what is being said. Others may need face-to-face interactions and discussions or radio programs like this. I like to say, we are here now. And what is our next step moving forward? And that is why I'm happy to be here today. And many times we like to focus only on cannabis, but there are so many other substances that our people are experimenting with, are using, that we need to educate the public about those as well. Because outside of alcohol, which has become very normalized, yes, there is the cannabis, and yes, there is the tobacco. But there are also some growing concern based on social media influencers of things, concoctions that the young people are getting into, such as the lean product. I don't know how many people are familiar with that. But it was made popular by, I think it was a pop star, where they take cough syrup and mix it with Sprite and some form of candy. And children are experimenting with these things, but how many parents are aware of this? You know, so these are some other concerns. There's the vaping that is picking up as well. It's mainly tobacco. And we must educate our people about all these different forms, so parents, adults, others are aware, so that they could intervene appropriately to ensure that these do not get out of hand moving forward. And when we intervene, we must intervene from a place of not condemnation, but compassion, to ensure change and to help with growth and healing and right choices.
You know, I'm sort of in agreement with the early part of the statement, because I do see the effort from the police and other authorities to now clarify, right? I didn't see a particular statement, but I saw the program, the efforts being made, etc. So I'm in agreement with you. Okay, so if we did not do a good job in doing perfect communication at the beginning, we are here, and now we have to pick it up from here. Now, you made another interesting point in the form of a question, whether or not the society asks, whether or not government is responsible. And in listening to that question, I'm thinking to myself, what if they are? And what if they say they are not? Did they, by their very actions or governance, suggest to us or to you that they are?
The fact that the National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention exists, and this department has been around since 2001, the government understands the responsibility. the fact that there are a number of social protective services, social services, counseling centers, because this is where a lot of the services that people, the underlying issues that leads to misuse and abuse, these are some other areas that will support recovery and response to substance misuse and abuse. And so the government, I think, plays a very important role, and they are aware of the role that they are playing. I think they're making strides to ensure that they're doing their part to support persons with substance misuse and abuse. But what I was trying to get to is the fact that it is not the responsibility of the government alone. Yes, the government has a very, very important responsibility, but this challenge does not belong to one sector or one institution. So it's not solely the responsibility of the government, it's not solely the responsibility of police, it's not solely the responsibility of the church, because it affects families, communities, national development, and we all have a role to play. Families is one of the first line of prevention, and so everybody has a role in the response to and the prevention of substance misuse and abuse.
In relation to that, though, should we incorporate or embrace changes? Because, as you mentioned, you have social media, you have different challenges that come forth, and even in governance, we in maybe 40 years ago, 30 years ago, it was not so much a system or society that engages in terms of strategies, problem solving, etc. Today's society wants a bigger say in a lot of the things. So must we look towards that when we are trying to solve some of our current problems?
Of course, it is very important that we have some input from various sectors of our society. And I'll give an example. The National Drug Council that I work for, let me give a little backdrop. Outside of the Secretariat, where I'm the director, it's governed by a council. And as I indicated, it comprises of a number of different ministries, health, education, social services, police, Nevis Evangelical Association, the St. Kitts Christian Council, the law group fraternity here, Medical and Dental Association, Department of Youth. Various sectors are part of this council because we need to know exactly what the society is dealing with, and one entity cannot get that on its own. So in order to open the horizon of understanding, we must be able to hear from various groupings of society. We recently got approved for our national drug policy in 2024 and now in the implementation process. But in order to have a solid policy that guides our response to substance misuse and abuse, there were a number of different groups that played a part, because we needed to hear from you. What are you seeing? What are the difficulties? What are you seeing are the gaps? Where can we address these? Because no matter who you are, there is some value to your perspective and to your insight. And then that is where we come back as a government, making sure we connect with the experts to pull all of that together to provide something that can make a difference for our society, for our nation.
So therefore, having garnered that particular information and input, then you now formulate.
Correct.
Right. And not from the other way, up, down, as it used to be.
There's different orders. It could be the chain up or chain down, but we just make sure that everyone is incorporated.
The chain up. I
chain
like
up and chain down.
I like that, the chain up. Chain up. Okay, manners.
Could I slip in a question here? According to the notes we have prepared, or you have prepared, there's mention made of misuse of drugs across generations. Could you clarify which generations you're referring to. I would assume, for example, I think I'm being somewhat facetious here, that my generation, my age, would not be too heavily involved in drugs.
Oh my.
All right, also clarify, please. Set me
Yeah,
straight.
it is across generation, which means across various age groups. All right. So what we're seeing for younger persons, some common factors include what will lead to it, or the reasons for is peer pressure, curiosity and experimentation, social media influence, exposure in home or community settings, lack of awareness of the risk of some of these substances. And for the adults, the older population, they too are dealing with various types of stress, financial pressure, relationship challenges, unresolved trauma, poor coping mechanism, social normalization of alcohol use. And sometimes the substance is not the real issue. And I think I was sharing that with Mr. Hendrickson earlier. It is what the person may be trying to cope with. So across generations, across various age groups, one major factor is the tendency to self-medicate emotional pain instead of seeking support. And this is why our national response must include mental health prevention, education, family strengthening, and access to counseling services. So yes, all age groups are impacted by this.
Okay, thank you. Keep calling break. According to our notes, we're thinking of having a call-in break, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, that's not a problem. So just invite persons to call if they 469-161-601-700 if you'd like to be a part of the discussion. Meanwhile, let me get this short break.
We all love our beautiful federation, so keeping our public spaces clean and healthy for everyone means knowing the law. Under the Smoking Designated Areas Act 2023, smoking or vaping any substance is prohibited in all public places, including while in any vehicle on public roads. Please only smoke in areas clearly marked with official signage. If there is no sign, it is a smoke-free zone. Violations carry a fixed penalty of $500. Let's respect each other and the law. This message was brought to you by the St. Kitts and Nevis National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention. Clean air for everyone.
You're listening to Vaughn Radio from the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results. Your phone calls are included on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700 if you have a question or comment. Let's go back to the panel.
So thanks again, Mr. Herbert. But we've been
walk with me. You don't let people confuse you, right? You ask permission if you can say Webbo.
Webbo.
I told you yes.
Okay, we'll go with Webbo then. I'll walk with you and call you Webbo moving forward.
Okay.
But this discussion is about shared responsibility, because I think at some point or the other we would have seen the impact of substance misuse and abuse on others, whether it's a family member, someone within our community. We would have heard the stories of people being impacted about the various types, because we have prescription medication. Some people are misusing those as well. We have the young people into this thing called pill popping, and so at some point in our life we will pass someone, but we wanted to highlight the importance of shared responsibility. And it is important to indicate that each sector plays a unique but interconnected one. And if we look at some of the primary sectors, family, school, churches, families are often, as I mentioned earlier, the first line of prevention. Children and adults alike need a home where conversations can happen without shame or fear. Children need safe spaces. As I reflect on our secondary school drug prevalence survey back in 2013, one of the findings that we saw was that children who came from homes where they felt connected to their parents, they felt that the interaction with the parents were good, they were less likely to use substances, right? So having those safe spaces with parents, with a guardian, with an adult, acts as a buffer or prevention tool towards substance misuse and abuse. And as we look at the schools as well, schools are critical for prevention education, building life skills, and early identification of risk factors. So the National Drug Council works very closely with our schools across the Federation in both St. Kitts and Nevis, for we have developed some standardized manuals, evidence-informed, focusing on life skills and education, helping them understand the risk, coping mechanisms, support groups. And it's important for schools to partner with us in this instance so that the message can reach our children. All right, and even now I would challenge the local pastors here, like, what type of role do you think the church can play? Because the church has played a very powerful role, because it is a trusted and deeply rooted in community life. So even just to get the ball rolling as to how different sectors feel that they can play, maybe I can throw it back to both of you as well.
You go to that with the manners. You said, I am asking now, prior to 2001, what data or assessment would have been made by the public that indicate from the public, the society, that this is what is happening now, and going forward you can really act on that, if let me put it that way.
Prior to 2001?
Yes, okay.
You mean before the establishment of the council?
Yes, please.
Okay, I believe what was happening, I'm not too certain, but we would have known there would have been a time with trafficking and the influx of drugs and substances. And so, based on international conventions and standards and recommendations, it would have been outlined or recommended that various countries, because not only in St. Kitts, it's across various hemispheres, regionally and internationally, that these councils are established to address that concern. It may have started more heavily on the supply reduction side of it. How can we stop illegal trafficking of substances and things along that line? But it has shifted a little bit to focus on prevention and treatment, realizing that there was a growing need. So it's very complex, but it was based on international recommendations and convention, based on the drug scourge that was being seen back in those times.
I think prior to 2001, there's the Act, I think in 1961, it speaks to the Drug Abuse or Marijuana Act, and it was being used, and somewhere in there is an indication that we seem to suggest that it must not be used. In other words, what I'm looking at is the wisdom of the persons then who wrote the legislation. They would have thought that, hey, this is not good. And so we are suggesting that out of abundance of caution, do not use it. Now we are hearing, well, it is God's thing, He gives it to man so man can use it. But man abuses it. And this is where the problem comes.
So there's the Drug Act of 2000, the Drug Act for the Misuse and the Abatement for the Misuse and Abuse of Drugs Act of 2000. And in that act, it explains, well, I don't want to get too much into technical terms, but it breaks down what substances are legal and illegal based on schedules. And so there are various schedules of substances where it lines legal and illegal substances, which has changed over time. And so you can find that in that act. But again, it comes back to what was being seen in society at that time. And you mentioned the statement about it's from God and the potential for abuse. The thing is, where we stand in the National Drug Council is that we respect that there are various religions and perspectives. There are different groupings, there are different religious groups and beliefs, and so we respect those. but we must also respect the beliefs, the right, the health of others as well. All right. Looking more specifically to cannabis, right? Because I know people like to say the herb is from God and, you know, it's in the Bible and all that kind of. We respect that. We respect that. And we respect the laws that have been established. But at the same time, we want to encourage persons to respect others. One of the biggest concerns we have right now is the public smoking. And it is illegal to smoke in public, and I'm not sure that persons are very familiar with that. So there are a number of concerns around the drug misuse and what is legal and illegal, but yes.
And I would suggest we reserve sometime. We're almost there for 8 o'clock.
I realize.
And I wanted to pop in a question before we get into the cannabis thing, because discussion on the use of cannabis is a big thing these days. So could I slip in this question, because you raised the issue of the church?
The church, yes, the church.
And I wanted to ask a question about that, because we are here on behalf of a church organization, and so I maybe have to raise some questions and make a comment. First, I would like to say I think the churches do. I'm not sure that all do, but some may do a very good job at involving the youth from a very young age. I happen to belong to a church, and I speak of that one, but other churches in our circuit do similar things. But I think the Genderland Methodist Church is a good example, because the youth, we have a big youth population, and they're very much involved in different things that have impressed me. For example, the steel band, and the youth love to play steel band. And there's a boys' brigade and there's a girls' brigade. And I have mentioned before that I passed by one afternoon when the children were at boys' brigade. It was a joy to see them in the yard, kicking football, playing cricket, running up and down, whatever. Good activities for the children. And that is good. Well, the question we have to raise, I think, or the church has to address, is the message coming from the church, including from the pulpit, always relevant, or should I put it, to youth problems? Because we can make the mistake of focusing, be somewhat one-dimensional, and not address issues that face youth, challenges, etc., etc. I think we all are aware that in most of our churches, the children come to church until they are 12, 13, 14, but soon after they disappear at a time when they maybe need direction and help. So how can we overcome that? Personally, I would suggest maybe sometimes the message of the church has to be a little wider to keep the youth interested. Maybe it has to be mixed. I don't know. That's only my personal take. So you might challenge that. That's those are my questions. I don't have the answers, so maybe you might help me in that.
Well, I agree. And I to come from a church where the youth are very active. And what we hope from churches is that the leaders, pastors from pulpit, as you said, right down to other leaders within the pew, that they educate themselves about various social issues. Because the church has for many years been a very safe, respectable and trusted institution in our society that can offer mentorship, counseling support, moral guidance and safe spaces for difficult conversation. And these are the type of services or support and activities that help our young people and adults alike, because remember we're saying it's across generations, not just for young people, to make better decisions for their health, for their well-being, for social development, for national safety. So I think it's very important. For instance, when the Evangelical Association reached out to our organization to have discussion, drugs and the church, that was one of the first steps. It's spinned off. Now the Methodist Church is having me here today. Nevis Circuit is having me here today to have this open discussion. Next month I meet with the Nevis Wesleyan Holiness Church as well for an evening discussion. So it's important for us to be informed, educate ourselves, know where that additional support is. We do not anticipate that the church will have the expert experience or knowledge to deal with treatment and rehabilitation and things along that line, but there are services and referral mechanisms that are out there that is important for our pastors and other leaders within the church to know, so that they can appropriately support their congregants, their members as well. So you play a very instrumental role as one of the sectors who have a responsibility to support the government, support individuals, families and communities with curbing this issue of misuse and abuse.
We have only about 7 minutes. Am I right, Mr.?
We got a little more than 7 minutes. We have an hour. We started
late.
Some programming stuff, so
Okay.
let's keep rolling.
Keep rolling. Well, as I said earlier, cannabis, in a way, well, to some of us, we know, according to what you said, alcohol is still the big thing across generations.
Where we ad hoc, let's say ad hoc, because
okay.
this was since 2013 when we
Okay.
had that finding.
But cannabis is gaining currency because of the recent freeing up and the change of legislation, etc. And I'm sure the public will want to hear a little more about that. Recently in Charlestown, there was a demonstration by the Rasta community, representatives of the Rasta community, and they were protesting against 2 recent arrests, one in St. Kitts and one in Nevis. And it was interesting to hear the message, and part of it struck me because the announcer was saying, basically, if one more arrest, and we gone, well, let me not say what they said, but there would be things to happen if there was one more unfair arrest. So it's a big question, a big issue in the public eye these days. So any clarification in this time?
Sure, I think this is a very important area where clarity is needed, and I would have alluded to that earlier. And just for the purpose of the listening audience and us here, decriminalization does not mean full legislation. It means that certain limited circumstances involving possession or cultivation may no longer automatically result in criminal prosecution, but they remain regulated under the law. There is also a distinction between decriminalization and what we're hearing now with the medical cannabis framework under the Medicinal Cannabis Authority. And although I don't have all the details, because it's a different authority that deals with the medicinal cannabis, the licensing of and cultivation and things along that line, what I can recommend is that persons visit their website. Let me make sure I have the right website for more information. The St. Kitts and Nevis Medicinal Cannabis Authority at sknmca.kn. And on that
Could you repeat that, please?
Sorry, sknmca.kn. So it is the S for Saint, K for Kitts, N for Nevis, M for medicinal, C for cannabis, A for authority.kn.
Okay.
I know the CEO there, Mr. Mills. There's also a number that you can call, but he has also made visits here to Nevis as well. It is normally recommended that persons visit their office. Persons who are interested visit their office on Princess Street in Bastille, but arrangements can be made when he visits Nevis as well. So the number to call is 467-1613. 467-1613 as it relates to the licensing for the cultivation and medicinal production and things along that line. But there's a difference. We know that there was some opening as it relates to the legalization for the Rastafarian groups, for your religious rights and for conscious rights for adults. I'm not certain where they are with the licensing of these, but there's a process. I am not certain of the technicalities behind those arrests. I don't think I am the appropriate one to speak on that at this time. But for your own clarification, for the medicinal side of it, that is one. And for general questions on cannabis, there is a cannabis clarity website as well that gives you a total breakdown of cannabis, the regulations surrounding cannabis in the Federation. And that website is Cannabis, CANNABIS, Clarity, CLARITY, SKN.com, and I'll repeat it for those who may be writing down. Cannabis Clarity, SKN.com, CANNABIS, CLARITY, SKN.com. And on that website, it breaks down the law, it explains what is legal, the parameters of cultivation and of use. But one of the things I really want to highlight while we are on cannabis is that you may have seen some signs across the Federation, both on St. Kitts and on Nevis, saying that public smoking is prohibited, and that is the law. Yes, we respect the religious rights, we respect the conscious rights of adults, but it is unfair for persons to be in public. You don't know who has asthma, who has respiratory challenges, and you're puffing your smoke in the atmosphere. All right? So it must be in the privacy of your home. It must be at an area that is and displays a designated smoking sign. Otherwise, there could be a $500 penalty for that. I know some persons have asked, well, where do our business places in particular, where can we get these licenses? These licenses, from what I understand, are issued through the chief medical officer. So if you have a business establishment, there is a procedure in order to get that license.
Well, I think that
you have a burning question.
Yeah. That is really one of the problems. Because the small man on the street, he says, well, I can smoke. I can have this. But the license for those who want to cultivate, it reminds me of the act that dealt with bushworm. You can have a license to do that, but to get a license you have to go through all of these things, and people don't bother with that. So similarly, I think this is the same thing here. So it would be always an uphill task for a guy who may very well want to do this thing here. But boy, I got a problem with this license business. Whatever it entails to have it, I would not be able to get. So I am going to do it my way, and we are going to have a problem. So the fellow on the street, he's going to get his supply.
As I listen and I observe the discussions and the debate about this smoking, and I'm thinking to myself in terms of communication and effective communication, public smoking is the operative word or term where the emphasis should be. So you would hear people arguing about this thing or debating it, as you would say. But if the emphasis is put on, nobody's stopping you from smoking the joint or what it is. The public smoking is where the issue is. Where now you want to come into my space and do it. Just an observation.
So could I comment here, because from what I heard on the news, that issue has been addressed somewhat. Somebody made the comment that the police now have tickets. Is that being exercised? Because up to recently in Charlestown, fellows were sitting on the sidewalk in the middle of town and smoking freely, groups of fellows. I even stopped to speak to some the other day and asked him, we all get, the fellow tell me so-and-so up the street. So it was open country. Is that...
From what I understood, tickets are already being issued. I'm not sure how many, I'm not sure how frequently, but the tickets are available. The education is being shared as much as through billboards, social media, online platforms, in smaller group engagements. And so I anticipate as time progresses, that maybe we'll be seeing more ticketing soon. But it has already started, from what I understood.
May I ask, from whence this misconception came? Because 10 years ago, we didn't have this issue. So from whence this misconception came, where a person feels, as Mr. Manners just indicated, that a group of us can go sit right down here in the public and smoke?
I guess it comes back again to persons not fully understanding the distinction between decriminalization and legalization, not fully taking the time to understand what the law really stipulated when we had that reform in our regulation surrounding cannabis. And so that is why that education is necessary. I really encourage our listening audience to, reach out to the different sources to better understand what the law says, to avoid you in the future getting in other trouble. You may have been a little bit lax, but I anticipate that the ticketing and enforcement may be picking up soon as well.
Do you sense we have a complication as well, where persons who ought to know better and thus clarify for those who don't, and thus continue to complicate the issue?
There is some challenges. There are some challenges that we are trying to override.
Okay. Well, one thing with us, we
Working with you.
Work with me.
But I, before we run out of time, though, because I know it's cutting close, I really wanted not just to have these open discussion, but to let people know, if you find yourself, and I always remember I had discussion with an older lady who many persons saw her, she drinks a lot, and she's always drinking and overdoing it and things along the line. But what many don't realize is that many persons really do not know how to cope. This individual would have shared with me what she was taught by her parents, is that if she's feeling overwhelmed or stressed, just have some alcohol, have a drink, and your troubles will go away. And that was a pattern that she got stuck in for many, many years, until she was able to get therapy and support to learn coping and build on her strengths in that area. And so it is important to share what resources we have available, and we have quite a few. The National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention, we're based in St. Kitts, but we can connect with you through social media, online, or via email. Our office number is 467-1703, and what we can do is provide various resources for you to receive support. But on a general, we have here in Nevis the Behavioral Health and Wellness Center in Nevis. We also have public and private medical doctors and psychologists. One of our former members, Dr. Curtis Clark, I know she has that clinical psychology institute now, that I know that she can offer services there as well. In St. Kitts, we have the National Counseling Center. There is police intervention teams, and then of course church and community support networks that are available to offer that support. But if you reach out to us at the National Drug Council at 467-1703, we can definitely provide you with a more detailed listing of the various services that are available should you need help and support. So just to remember that no one necessarily has to face this alone. Sometimes we feel alone in our challenges, but support is available. Any other questions? Or
Just a comment from me. Smoke travels. And so I might be at the bus stand, and the people down there on the other side are smoking up themselves, and they're affecting me.
right.
And what if I say that, man, the smoke bothering me? And, I have a right, the last day I could smoke anywhere. And then, well, you're infringing my right too.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to clarify here. The law does not say that you can smoke anywhere. You're not even allowed to smoke in your private vehicle on a public road. Once you're in a public space, you're not allowed to smoke unless there is a designated visible smoking sign available. So no, that is a misconception. That is a myth. You're not allowed to smoke in public spaces.
Okay, let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo.
Yes.
Good evening to the panelists and good evening to the listening public. The cannabis law, as I understand it, is very confusing. Even if you read it, they're saying, for instance, that you could smoke, but not in public space. They say you smoke in the privacy of your home. I'm noticing that fellas are smoking in public, nobody problem. But the police go to people's private space and arrest them. That is an anomaly that, it will confuse anybody.
You think I help? You think
take the time to explain to people what exactly they would like, what exactly they're saying, what exactly they're doing.
Caller, you think I could try and help to deconfuse it? Based on what you based on what you just explained. Because I have not read the law, but based on what you just explained.
Yes. Yeah, I'd appreciate it.
Right, based on what I understand. Now, you said clearly, and I'm not confused by it, because you were very clear. You said that the law says you can smoke in the privacy of your own home. Agreed?
Yes.
Okay. But not in public spaces?
Yes.
No confusion there?
No confusion there.
But you seem to suggest that the confusion now comes in when the police is going to the privacy of your own home and arrest you, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, but arrest you for what?
Well, therein lies the confusion.
No, okay, well, let me ask you this. Let's not use smoking.
Pardon?
Let me ask you this, but let's not use smoking.
Yes.
A man's home is his castle. You agree with that? And you can do whatever you will in your home, your privacy of your own home.
Within the limits of the law.
Yeah, walk with... Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I've made my case. Have I?
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, I'm not confused by that. I'm still don't understanding how.
Well, okay. Well, let's go on then. Let's go on. Yeah. So that if you now, to come back to the smoking, if you now do something in reference to the smoking or the cannabis that now contravenes the law, that is where the police now can act, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Could I add a little something there, though? Because
yes. Caller, Mr. Manager would like to engage you a bit.
Seeking clarity.
Let me just make one further on this.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the things that I believe that people might have missed, the first part where people smoking in public and they say they have the right to issue tickets, and well, I don't know any tickets have been issued. I don't know anybody. You hear about where they arrest people, but you don't hear about the issuance of tickets. Okay, Mr. Manos, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I don't know whether I have it right, because I'm not an expert in these matters, but it seemed to me there's a little confusion in what was laid on the table just now, because the people smoking in town would be prosecuted for smoking, whereas the people who have been arrested, well, I don't know all of the facts, but some of the arrests we know about were not for smoking, they were for planting. Am I right?
Having your custody.
Having
if we're gonna go to that, we're gonna go to the part where, well, I thought people were given the right to plant. I believe it's for a certain amount, and these situations, there are matters that are in the court, and all the facts are not known. But the thing is, it's happening.
So yes, just to add some clarity on the Cannabis Clarity SKN
yes,
website.
Okay.
You are right. You are allowed to cultivate up to 5 cannabis plants in a secured area within your private premises. All right, and it has to be in a place that is away from young people, so they should not be able to have easy access to that plant. So you can't have your plant hanging over and school children are passing by. So you can cultivate up to 5 cannabis plants in a secured area on your private premises. All right, and the website that I referred to earlier, Cannabis Clarity skn.com, it breaks it down, the criminalization of cultivation, possession, and the smoking of cannabis. So if you can, because it's a lot of information that we really cannot get through at this time, but it's a good resource to bring clarity. You read it, you share it, have discussions based on that information as well.
Okay. Mrs. Byron Keynes, we're gonna have you back. When you get off the air, my tech here, Mrs. Martin, will talk with you.
Okay.
Let's, Mr. Manners and company, let's wrap up for the next segment.
You have anything to add?
Okay, thank you for giving me the floor, Mr. Manners. I just want to say thank you again for allowing me to come to have this discussion, and I congratulate the Methodist local pastors for really engaging in this type of social issues. Local preachers for engaging us in this type of conversation, and I encourage other churches, other groups, other associations. Let's have the discussion so that we can better inform and support individuals in need. Thank you. The National Drug Council is always willing and ready to support as best as we can, and we can be reached at 467-1703. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for the younger ones, where we share a lot of our information of what we do and provide clarity to various laws and services. So thank you once again, Webbo, Manners, and Hendrickson, Harvey, thank you so much for having me. It was a great time this evening.
And on behalf of the local preaching community and on behalf of the Methodist Church, I would like to thank again Webbo, by his permission, and also especially Mrs. Byron Keynes for being here this evening. I hope that people were at home listening and that they were so engrossed in what they were hearing that they didn't have time to call. But I think people were listening. I think I forgot to mention it earlier that Mrs. Byron Keynes traveled this evening by Channel Ferry to get here and is taking the ferry again within the next half an hour. And so I wish her safe travel home and keep spreading the word because it's important. Thank you
so
very
much.
We all love our beautiful federation, so keeping our public spaces clean and healthy for everyone means knowing the law. Under the Smoking Designated Areas Act 2023, smoking or vaping any substance is prohibited in all public places, including while in any vehicle on public roads. Please only smoke in areas clearly marked with official signage. If there is no sign, it is a smoke-free zone. Violations carry a fixed penalty of $500. Let's respect each other and the law. This message was brought to you by the St. Kitts and Nevis National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention. Clean air for everyone.
Hey, builders, homeowners, contractors, listen up! When it comes to building smart and saving big, there's only one place to start. Builders Paradise. Everyday low prices. 20% off all day, every day. That's right. At Builders Paradise, you get everyday low prices. Not sometimes, not special days, but all day, every day. From doors and windows, paints and tiles, plumbing and electrical fixtures. Everything you need to build, upgrade, or renovate. So when you're building up and saving smart, start right from the very beginning. Builders Paradise. 20% off all day, every day. Where you're shopping, Builders Paradise. While you're saving, everyday low prices. Builders Paradise. Everyday low prices, 20% off all day, every day. Builders Paradise. Saving sweet all day, every day.
Everyday low prices.
From Queen City, Nevis, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, Vaughn Radio.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results. Our first segment, we looked at the topic preventing and responding to drug abuse, a shared responsibility. We spoke with some local preachers here in Nevis and a member of the drug Association on St. Kitts. I'll give you the exact title in just a minute. But the second segment, Conrad Nile Libert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to the listening public. Good evening to my friend and brethren here, Mr. Fifield. Good evening. And to all tuned to this program in the international circle. Once again, Webbo, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to continue the discussion and to add some clarity and to become even more aware of what is going on as it relates to this cannabis authority and the various headings it finds itself under.
Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to all those who are listening and viewing. We bid you a very good night. Webbo, I thought that the first segment was really interesting. I think that is also timely, and I believe that is something that we would probably want to pick up on, as I believe that, it really could be discussed more. Thank you once again, Webbo, for your invitation. Looking forward for the discussion.
Actually, I really think that I think the topic was much wider than cannabis, really, but cannabis seems to have taken most of the time because it's something new as it relates to the law that surrounds cannabis and the social implications and so forth. But I think as we speak to substance abuse, I think first and foremost we have to probably look at alcohol consumption, because I think alcohol consumption, again, it's more normal to see people drunken and having fun and so forth, because it's been legal for so long, and but it looks like it poses a much bigger challenge, social challenge, and even in a medical challenge than even cannabis as we know it today. And so I always say to myself, it looks like when we discuss this so-called drug thing, which I do not like to refer to cannabis as a drug, but I suppose under certain definition one can speak of it as such, and we always speak in almost a kind of prejudicial way, you know, when we speak to, you know, substance abuse and so forth. Again, it is what we have become accustomed to, as one of the speakers say in the first segment of the show. Some drug act of the 1960s said you must not use it, and today we are hearing something completely different. Well, as you know, scientifically, we have been enlightened to a great extent, not just recently, you know, but again, it's based on other factors that we've been obviously cut off from true information about the cannabis, because I know since in the 1970s, you know, the University of the West Indies has been talking about its usage in curing glaucoma and various illnesses. But again, such voice has been dampened again because of the much louder voices that tends to keep such knowledge away from the people, not because of any other reason. I think reasons mostly based on economics, really, because I think the reason why cannabis has been suppressed the way it's been suppressed is because of economics. And I really think the law that we're dealing with today, it's that confusing because it's driven also to a great extent by economics and the idea of making money, really. And so it's been divided up into so many different segments and sectors that, you know, it becomes so confusing, really and truly. Like, for instance, the medical cannabis, it seems to appear as if it's only the government really supposed to be having much to do with medical cannabis, you know, and when they speak to the cannabis industry, it seems to be like it's the government again, mostly supposed to do with the industry, because, you know, the medical cannabis and the so-called cannabis industry, these areas seems to be way up the road of financial reward according to them. And so, to me, the legislation has been confused simply because of the expected or perceived financial gain that may come from the growing of cannabis for medical purposes or for any industrial usage as such, really.
Well, one of the things, Naya, that I believe first and foremost, persons are somewhat confused in terms of the authority, you know, where do they get this licensing to cultivate, you know, X amount and so forth. The Mrs. Byron Keynes, who was on not too long ago, she would have indicated that, you know, one can plant have 5 plants, and I am not sure, and this is why I'm saying it this way. You know, if you can have 5 plants, you know, the law normally speaks to adults. Let's say it's a husband and a wife, and maybe a grown child over the age of let me just use 21 for this matter. And can it be, is it 5 plants per household, 5 plants per individual?
Per household.
Per household.
I
Okay,
think
great.
I think
Okay.
it is.
Okay, because that question was asked just recently, and you know, I really honestly couldn't have answered it, so that is why I seek some clarification. And I believe to the general public on a whole, I want to believe that there should be some more educational sessions, just like any other thing. I think that we could do well with maybe some town hall meetings. You know, you have maybe person from the legal fraternity, you have from the enforcement side of it, the customs, the police, you know, who, you know, the, you know, even persons from Miss Byron Keynes' office and so forth, you know, and, you know, really educate, the populace so we could better understand moving forward?
Yes, but yeah, I suppose different areas of education, they can educate them according to the law. I guess education also will tend to look at the properties of marijuana, the impact on the physical and mental. Of course, there are those who think they can speak on the social impact of smoking marijuana and so forth. But I think we are dealing with some impacting issues here. For a very long time, back in the late 1990s, I know there been a clampdown on smoking in public internationally. In England, in Europe. When I used to be in England studying, it was said that France was one of the only country that was not too keen about designating or designated smoking areas. I could remember we used to joke about it because they say, well, the designated smoking areas in a restaurant in France is down in the basement, really, which is usually normally uncomfortable because people in France smoke a lot. Basically, they were saying that because they were giving more preference to convenience and comfort to those who smoke as opposed to putting them, in the midst of things. So basically what they were saying, the smoking areas in restaurants in France, usually in the basement and, somewhere which is totally uncomfortable because France was still upholding, that social phenomena about smoking. But you see, we're dealing with some impacting issues here. I'm saying that to say, this smoking zone and not smoking in the public, that major cutback, it has been happening a long time, a long time. Today we are dealing with it. We are not just dealing with the cutback of smoking generally, but we are also dealing with a partial discrimination, legalization, or partial whatever they want to call it with marijuana. So we are dealing with two impacts here. Now, when cigarette was made legal or introduced, people used to smoke a lot, man. It was sexy to smoke. From a woman point of view. In every movies, smoking, holding a cigarette, and every picture used to be something, and that is what we're experiencing now. With cannabis, that kind of social involvement with people, with youths, where people, are willing to experiment with it, take a pull here and there. We are going through that right now. I think when it comes to the cigarette, it was back in the 1960s, back in the 50s, where smoking a cigarette was everywhere, every movies, on every billboard, it was so very much socially acceptable, and what can I say? It was almost like a social preference, to be smoking, I was surprised. Once upon a time I went to England and I met some people who, they're from Nevis and they come from this so-called, good family in Nevis. And when I go and see them smoke cigarettes in England, I say, what? It surprised me, but it was an accepted thing much more back then, that have died out. And what we're dealing with today is that kind of upsurge, in ganja smoking, in marijuana smoking, and these designated smoking areas. So designated smoking areas, the half legalization of marijuana, I say half, or the decriminalization of marijuana, comes together in our little federation, and it is something that we see, is something that we have to deal with, is something that we have to come up with, because one, the marijuana consumption is on a surge, and then there is this implication, coming from government's point of view of not smoking in public, and adhering to smoking zones and so forth. Not smoking in public, what exactly that means. Smoking in the park, is considered smoking in the public. Well, to me, smoking in the park is something that is almost accepted all around the world, even though around the world certain places have smoking zone, because that's where you go and relax, sit down, and basically let your hair down. I'm not sure if that is allowed here in the Federation, or there will be smoking areas in the park. I mean, we're here in this climate where we have, summer all the time. But in the cities where you have summer and winter, I mean, summertime people come out. Summertime people let down their hair with a guitar and hang out in the park. Various groups, the park is full with people. And smoking cannabis is something that goes on, to me, quite naturally and frequently, especially in a place like Canada. Look at Canada. I don't hear all these things about this limitations here and different aspect and segment of the cannabis laws. Maybe they have them, and I'm not sure. But when I go to Canada, what I notice there's this long line of people. Some of them during the winter standing in the snow, and they go into a government office to purchase cannabis. They go into a government office to purchase cannabis, and they pay a tax, in purchasing cannabis, and they walk away and they get on with their stuff. Here now we have so many different laws around this whole thing. I am in agreement with the Premier to have some kind of amnesty, relax the laws for a while, let us see if things would iron out, and the so-called industry maybe can start its little growth, instead of this serious implication, the serious limitation. We're still seeing criminalization of it. And so it's a bag of confusion, really. It is a bag of confusion as it relates to the Rasta people, using herb as a holy sacrament that should be respected. As it relates to quantity, the government have not got that right at all, because they don't know how a Rasta people come together. And their consumption level, I suppose, all this will have to be trashed out, I suppose. But to me, it's more confusion than anything else. And at the same time, people are still getting locked up. Just the other day, a young man has had 13 trees. I think, 13 trees, and the limitation is like you can have 5 trees. Now we have 13 trees, and he had to pay $18,000, and it's like, well, I mean, what are we talking about when we talk about this decriminalization? Here, it's a bag of mixed nuts. It looks like, if anybody who lives in a different country look at the laws here, they might come here and think that, okay, let me involve myself with some cannabis, and they find themselves be in serious trouble with the law, and because there's not much clarity. And I understand there are places you can go, there are websites you can look at, but even that in itself, sometimes it's probably look like it take a liar to untangle the whole wording of these legislation and so forth. So.
Well, what I understand by decriminalization is that it is not unlike legalization. Legalization is the complete acceptance, for want of a better term, of whatever it is. And decriminalization, now you can be penalized. You can have you could be fined, and other penalties could be levied against you if you are found with maybe over the stipulated amount of whatever it is. And so I want to believe sometimes persons probably get, a little mix up in the terminologies. What I want to say to, when I was growing up, it was basically Rastas who were smoking weed. Now, when we look into today's society, everybody's basically smoking weed. Sometimes I wonder if it's a fashion. And I'm saying this to say, when you look around Charleston, for example, you would hardly ever see a Rasta man in Charleston smoking. But you would see, and when I say Rasta, maybe there are Rastas, I don't know. But Rastas, mostly, you can look at them and know who they are by the hairstyle, the locks. And I haven't or hardly have seen any Rastas in town smoking. But you would see other persons who we consider to be quote-unquote baldheads, in town smoking. And sometimes I wonder why. In terms of now, persons smoking in public opposed to in the privacy of the home. If I, for example, have asthma and I know that persons not supposed to be smoking, let's say in the E.T. Willett Park, for example, I may be gone to watch a football match, want to enjoy the match, thinking that nobody would be smoking. Now, if I know beforehand that persons could smoke in the E.T. Willett Park, for example, then I may not go to that function because I know I have asthma. But I have asthma, I want to enjoy the game just as anyone else. And if you're not supposed to be smoking in that area, then I believe you're not supposed to be smoking. The law, based on what my knowledge, is that you would have clear signage if you are supposed to, if smoking is permitted in that particular area. So I believe that, it is just more education, people understanding the do's and the don'ts. And if they do, I believe that, we could live harmoniously.
Yeah, but as you speak to asthma, just the other day they had a demonstration in town where the Rasta people was demonstrating about their rights, their religious rights and their constitutional rights. And I walk into a young guy, I wouldn't say he's a Rasta, but he was pretty young, and he was there and had a lot to say to me because he said that he have a daughter who always had to be on the machine because she suffered from asthma, and he gave her herb, marijuana, and since that she have not
to smoke or to drink.
To drink.
And there lies the difference.
There lies the difference, but there lies the fact that there are good qualities.
I'm not disputing the qualities.
I'm not saying there are good qualities with the herb, and therefore when we speak, we should not think in terms of only smoking. I mean the idea about trees and have them in a secluded area to the back of your house, because the children must know about herb. The children should know about herb, like all herbs. I think we are putting too much thing around this thing. I mean, I expect that because it's something new. We legalize something which is I would say highly controversial, because there are people who does not really.
Has it been legalized?
Well, we're freeing up something
decriminalized.
To a certain extent. Decriminalize or what? I personally think it should be 100% legalized. I believe the hype would wither away if it's 100. The financial gains, the illegal transits and transactions and all this. And if this was done a long time, herb will just be another herb. Herb will just be another herb. As any other herb, and people would have choose the right way of getting the right benefits from it. When something is illegal, people consume it differently. Do you know that? Because I could recall, right, there was a legislation in England whereby you couldn't sell rum or alcohol after 11 o'clock. 11 p.m. at night in bars, in pubs and so forth. And you know what people used to do? Between 10 and 11, they drink twice as much Right?
To ban them over.
And when you come outside, everybody just lie down the street and vomit up and york up, and you understand. And the government realized, look, no, this is not working, and that's been changed probably in the early 2000s. This been something that they realized. Look, if you don't sell alcohol beyond 11 o'clock, you know what happened? Between 10 and 11. Man, I drink all 5-6 guineas one time, they pack up the bag with drinks, you know what I mean? And they realize that the consumption surged massively. A lot of people end up in the hospital and so forth. And that's the point I'm trying to make. When something is illegal, people deal with it, we deal with it completely different. When there is massive restrictions and things, people deal with it different, especially things that you consume.
But I believe that they're probably looking at it as, incremental steps in terms of maybe first decriminalizing it, and then maybe, who knows, they'll probably look at legalizing it. And the reason why I'm saying this too, I understand, well, basically, in the past, if I have a marijuana patch and I figure that you probably raid it, I can't go to the police. To lodge a complaint.
And what happened then?
And then I would probably want to take it up, in my own hands.
You did.
And then I would go contrary to the law. So maybe, maybe if it were to be legalized,
I'm right.
Then, somebody who feel aggrieved, could probably report it to the police and allow the police, to do what they're supposed to do, opposed to for persons, hiding and taking the line into their own hands. So maybe more studies possibly need to go into it in terms of the pros and the cons, and see how best, we can work out these things for the benefit of all.
Rasta people are the people who's been, advocating, and it's been said by you and others that Rastas smoke a lot of herb. Rastas are not known to be violent people, Rastas are known to be peaceful people. Rastas are known to be religious people, and so
some of the most biblical persons I know who quote scriptures are Rastas.
You're correct. But there is this thing.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Mr. Herbert. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good. And good evening to your panelists, Mr. Finefield.
Good evening.
And Mr. Liebert.
Yes, sir.
Yes. How is everyone?
Good.
Hello.
Yes, we are good. We are hearing you.
Yes. Okay. Good. I'm calling because Naya make a valid point just now, and I'm going to move away a little bit from the herb, the marijuana, the ganja, whatever you want to call it. I remember years ago, we were actually, as a society, we were really afraid to talk about sex with our young children, especially our daughters. We were afraid. We didn't want to talk about sex with them, because we feel if we talk sex to them, they're going to go out and they're going to get involved in it, and they're going to get pregnant, and etc., etc. Today, education has proven it that is wrong. Education, we say we are 98, 99% literacy. What are we afraid of? What we afraid of? Educate the people, educate the young children. Why? I mean, I listened to the lady this evening. About the marijuana, don't put it to the front, put it in the back, hide it and stuff like that. We have to educate our children. We have to educate our nation. That's the only way we're going to see the results and the benefit in society about the usage of marijuana. I mean, I spent years in the hospitality industry. Years. And the amount of people I have to shut off from drinking alcohol. Shut them off. No more for you. Does not matter how much money the hotel going to make. No more for you, because you are causing a problem with the other guests. I have never seen it with marijuana. So I'm just saying, just education. We are 99.9% literacy. Let's not be afraid. Let's educate our children. Let's educate our community. Let's educate the nation. And that's my input. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I believe that education is key in any subject matter. And that is what I would have said earlier on. You know, you get the different stakeholders. We go and we have maybe town hall meetings and stuff like that, and educate us all, because we are never too big or too old to learn. So I believe education is going to continue to be key for until thy kingdom come.
You know, I was told the other day, Marlboro.
Cigarette.
Yes. You work in the area of customs. I was told that it has some concessions on Marlboro. Is that correct?
I'd have to look into it.
Okay. I was told that, and I said, well, I got to find out more about that, really. But as it relates to government and government shared responsibility as it relates to substance abuse, I really don't think they're doing a good job. They have the various government, what you call that? Agencies and so forth, you know. And that's why I say there seems to be a prejudice. You know, I'm not sure if it's even conscious to them, you know. But I think the consummation of alcohol is way out of hand, you know. And again, it's because it's been something we know. And but I think we promote it so much in every respect and aspect, you know. I mean, if you listen, the Calypsos, you know, we just really turn our people on, and trust me, that have placed a major burden on our healthcare system, you know, and I believe, you know, as they are very aggressive in terms of controlling and, you know, the whole marijuana consumption and production and so forth, I believe it's not too late to put great emphasis on the alcohol consumption either. But at the same time, I'm not sure how much they can limit the church from having their wine every Sunday and so forth. So fifth, because just like the Rasta people who will smoke herb during their gathering and their you know, holy ceremonies, the Christians does that too, you know. And not only that, I could remember Mr. Brand should have been here. He have served in the Anglican Church for many years. I used to go to Anglican Church with my mom, and I couldn't bear the scent of the smoke coming from the incense that they're flinging around as they walk through. So it looked like smoke was always a part of some kind of religious thing. I don't know that if that used to get them high or what, you know. So as it relates to the cannabis and the Rasta people, man, and I really feel like they should remove every inch of restriction as it relates to that, you know, and we remove it all from the herb, you know, remove it all from the herb, and you would find the criminality that is sometimes promoted by the illegality, and the illegality promotes the major economic gains. It goes round and round in circle, which it's just a herb, really. It's just a herb. If you can grow it and I can grow it, why I should get in contention with you as it relates to, you know, I want to take your stuff, you want to take my stuff, and so forth. And I think the whole culture surrounding it, and it's only from the 1930s. It's only from the 1930s it was made illegal, you know. But the powers that exist within the market forces, you know, in promoting what they want you to consume, because of their economic benefit, was very suppressive to the herb. And even right now in the Federation of Sinkits and Nevis, that is what is going on, you know. That is what is going on. The government want to have all the herb, and the people must not have any.
But
do you know that? Yes, the individuals must only have 5 trees, but the government should run an industry with 20,000 trees. You understand?
Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good night, Webbo, and good night to the panelists here.
Good night.
Now, Webbo, I am here listening to you and listening to the program. Now, Lawyer, let me tell you something. It got to be something in that marijuana plant that the export them find out that you only could use it at a limited amount. Because you watch some of these young guys when they smoke marijuana, you see how they look. You see the eye look, you see the eye red and the eye like they bulging out their head. What because of that? Because they smoke too much? And it come like it's something addicted. Because down here in Sinkits, right? Listen now, school children, me sure primary school children, some of them must smoke ganja and all.
Yeah.
Because everybody smoking, nobody has no respect. Children smoking in front of the parents, smoking home with the parents, them in the house, and all these things. Some of the parents, they may like it, but they can't do nothing about it. I believe that something in that herb, that the export they'll find out that if you use it too much, it could contaminate young people's brains and contaminate anybody's brain. Look how these guys look. Some of them don't even want to work. When they smoke, they want to work. They just want to work, sit down, they want to work. And I tell them, Bassman run them off the job and all because they're smoking. Because they go hide and smoke, and when they come back, they standing up and watching the Bassman in the face. Anyway, you continue listening to the program, a good program.
Okay.
Yeah, they call away some very serious point, you know, because again, we're talking about substance abuse. Let me tell you something, man. They have something called Mr. Brown. They call it tobacco. They call it high leaf. Mm-hmm. Okay? A lot of people don't know that sells even more than marijuana today. It's a poison. And I keep telling the youths them that it is a poison. It's highly addictive. And that is what is causing the major problem. When you examine the kids today, sometimes I pass around some youth who smoke and you don't smell no herb at all. All you smell is tobacco. You know, but they blend the herb with the tobacco because they have they get this sudden high from the tobacco.
Good evening, thank you for holding. Okay. Good evening, you're on the air.
Fraternal love and greetings.
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 Good evening, you're on the air. Could you go ahead, please?
Yes, give thanks to the love of the Almighty and the ancestors, and blessed night to all who are on the panel here tonight. Can we really be frank and serious in how we are expounding on this dialogue when it comes to the use of the herb? Because if we really serious about saying we want to create an emphasis on how we can pertain our people in the value and the essence of what we call as an industry, well, you can still see people are being brutalized and being mistreated, and the value of the same herb that we say we're going into to create an industry. We see us around here, and then we having these old good crazy signs that call, say, prohibition, not any smoking in the public will be a fine of $500. What kind of lifestyle are we looking up to create? And all these dirty smoke coming from these vehicles are more dangerous than a herb smoke. What kind of value are we setting in our place? But anyway, I only setting our own value for what our society is made up of. And that is about only second standard that I create is a double standard. And this can't work only unless we have a formula that is we value it in respect and dialogue. And this ain't going to be nothing forced on a human being short. It's time to have respect and level. And we ain't seeing that. Ain't no sense you all come on here and talk about education and creating a demonic way of devaluating the human being, especially to the youths them. I just hear when you call a chat some vehicle nonsense. Talking about people smoke come and when bossman come back and job they just say what the bossman. That's a total lie. Y'all make mockery about her around here. Come on man, let me start being more frank. We're saying things in being a kind of discarded, but you are trying to make it like Herb is the problem around here. Herb ain't the problem here. Is the cocaine is the problem around here of creating the youth to the fact what they're doing around here. It's time now we do a proper education analysis on what we deal with when it comes to the youth of Herb, and that is what Ras I saying. And I tell you it straight up because no human being in Singles and Nevis or in the world can tell I and I where the use of Herb shall be valued for I and I as a common spiritual way. He's not no drug and he will not be no drug. You all have to do with our ignorance. Have a blessed night.
Okay, thank you. You as well.
Because Herb is not a problem. I totally agree with him. You know, Herb is not a problem. But you know, a lot of people don't understand. 80% of the man them that smoke herb, yeah, they're not smoking pure herb. They're smoking a mixture.
And that is what I'm saying again.
I will take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, Mavis Paris, the one and only. The caller that just called him, he's living in a fool's paradise if he's saying that young people are not leaving jobs on their lunch breaks, smoking up, and come back. Like Naya says, that mix of that brown makes a difference in the weed. I know that I grew up between people who smoke weed every night. And those days they smoke raw weed. Well, they sleep all night too. And then they get up in the morning and they were productive for the day. And then they come home again and they sleep through. Now, I have had the opportunity to live in another society where there's something called siesta. So you work for this amount of hours, then you get this amount of time to go home, rest and relax and do whatever. And this is where nicotine and tobacco, and I'm talking about over there in Indonesia and so on. It's because we don't have any education about what these things do to us and how to use them. But you know what? Everything in this world is harmful to somebody. Here's an experience I had. My child, newborn, was allergic to milk. They said give her dairy. And not dairy, soy milk. So we doctor went, got the soy milk, and we give her. My child almost died with convulsions. The first bottle she drank, she body shaky, belly blow up, and we had to turn her upside down for all the vomit to come out. She almost died from the convulsion, and then had to go to the hospital and get a shot. That is that. Incense in the church, of course, it's detrimental. You know how much people don't get asthma attacks after that? Our bodies are changing because of everything else that is in the environment. The smoky cars and them up and down that wouldn't change them oil. All those things are contributing. But you know what the foundation is? We no longer talk. We no longer educate each other. We no longer pontificate and come together and disagree and find out what is really right or wrong. And it's a lack of knowledge that is driving this. And you see the thing they call consumerism? It's killing everybody too. Because even the children in the school tell you, you got degree, but they're making more money than you. Because they're selling brownies, they're selling this, they're selling that, they're even selling themselves. And I done.
Okay.
You know, I have to agree with the caller in terms of education, and that is what I'm saying. And even the Rastafari community need to be part of that panelist to educate the populace. Because anything that is not taken in moderation could be harmful. It doesn't matter what it is. Even as simple as water, that is said that it is essential for our bodies. If we drink too much of it, you know, it would be detrimental to us. If we overeat, if we drink too much Coke, and I'm saying Coke, I'm talking about the bottled Coke, the liquid Coke. You know, it gives us spike our sugar. It's just, so I am saying, education, and then, here this thing has been introduced into the weed, the addition of this, the addition of that. And sometimes how it starts is that you add something and you give someone just to have a big laugh. And then that laugh turn into addiction. So we have to be mindful. And again, it comes back down to education. And if we want our society to be a better society, we must educate each other.
And to a great extent, and it's been said that it's not really the substance at times as we speak about addiction, but it's the individual. Okay? So, some people might smoke something or drink something and they're able to quit. Some are not able to quit.
And is the same thing if we even go to alcohol? I might be able to drink 10 Caribs and nothing happen. You may drink just 2. So we as individuals too, we must have an appreciation of our bodies and how we are made up and how much we can take, how much of what we can take. And not because somebody else say, by yourself, you only could drink 2 Carib, I drink 10 and may stand up. You try to drink 10. Because by the time you reach 5, you may just pass out.
Yeah, I sometimes hesitate to say this. But I've been around herb since I'm 15 years old. Okay?
Let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding. You got 1 minute.
Good night again, Webbo.
You walk with me. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
I said you have a minute. Go ahead.
Yes, yeah. I'm going now. I just want to ask my good friend a question. I want to ask him, what it benefit a woman to smoke 10 spliffs in maybe a half an hour or 5 minutes? Why benefit the body? Why do to his body? Why benefit him? Why benefit to his brains or whatever? Because these young people, 1 in, 1 out, 1 in, 1 out.
Okay, so you've asked a question and you got the minute, okay?
Yeah, okay, yes.
Okay, all right. Yes, Naya.
It's called chain smoking. It's never good. It's not good. That's crazy stuff to me. I never hear that yet. You understand? That's problematic. Seriously, in every way. It's overconsumption. I mean, that's a loss of control, to be quite honest. But I don't think herb reduce productivity at all. I was trying to make the point that the phone and the modern technology at times reduce productivity more than a lot of things that we consume, especially the phone.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Herbert.
Yeah, hello. You have a minute. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to know if anyone from the public works have noticed we had rain 4 weeks ago and the road for going over to Spring is all gutted out. It's very difficult for folks, including us, to drive up and down because of a smaller car. It's okay with the truck, but it needs looking into. It's full of gravel. They did some work there some time ago and they just put gravel on and it's washed out. So where can we go from here, please?
Okay, did you call the Public Works Department?
No, but someone...
Okay, but you asked the question, where do you go from here? So I'm giving you a suggestion.
Okay, Mr. Herbert.
You call 469-5521. Ask them to put you on to the Public Works Department, please.
Yes.
And report the same thing.
Okay.
And then let us know what happens.
Okay, thank you very much. God bless you. Have a blessed night.
You're welcome. Yes, go ahead.
Well, people should just live for health, and at times I almost want us to regulate yourself, but at times you're going to be on that point of regulating yourself. A man smoke 10 spliff in a half an hour, and then them things is not self-regulation at all, But I've been around herb since I'm 15 years old. I can tell you that straight on a daily basis, and I personally, I've not really experienced anything as it relates to lack of production. I've been to school, university, smoking herb. I could remember when I go to exams at Senate House in London, there are people who's doing yoga, there are people who's kneeling and praying, there are people who's running up and down exercise, and there come times I go and I smoke a spliff right in front, and they don't understand how I do that, and enter the exam hall, and I go in there and pass. And so people are different, I suppose, and in terms of being addicted, I mean, one day, for various reasons, I decide I stop smoking. I just stop smoking the very same day. But I am not finished with it, I must say that. But I halt for, it's been almost like 2 years. I'm not smoking any herb because of certain conditions I'm dealing with, and, I'm talking something personal on the radio. But I can speak to herb as once it's used, in a proper way, with respect, you can get the good out of it, and of course everybody is quite different, and everybody's body and strength of mind is quite different, and I suppose, but I would go for the absolute legalization of marijuana around the world. Yes.
I guess the other aspect of it is who's responsible, who should be responsible. I think that, it should start at home, with the parents. That is where I believe that it should start with, education, because sometimes we are saint at home, and then when we go to school and our parents comes to the school and they peep through the louver, and they recognize how we are behaving in school, some of them almost get heart attacks because they don't expect certain behaviors from us because we don't behave so in the environs of the home. But in school, sometimes it's peer pressure. You have to do this, I have to do this in order to be a part of this, group. And so sometimes, it is the education, the love that is shown at home, so that you are accepted at home, you are part of, you don't have to go to prove yourself to anyone. So it just comes right back to education. It must be at home.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Who was going to do all this educating that you all are requesting?
A cross-section of the community.
Example.
Parents, rastas,
so they're not
liars.
doing it?
Say it again, please.
And they're not doing it? Parents, rastas, etc.?
Well, what I'm advocating is to go out more in town hall settings and stuff like
so
that.
When you go to town hall settings and nobody come, then what?
You come to Fun Radio, everybody listen fun.
That's the last word. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On The Mark. Thank you all again for joining Keith Scarborough on Thursday evening for Government at Work. We thank you again for joining us. This is your voice in the community. Talk that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.